This is Caring for Mom and Dad, and we're here today with Charlotte Stewart, owner of Mela Music Therapy. Charlotte is a music therapist here in Arizona. She does have nationwide clients, but she is based here in Arizona. So we're excited to hear from Charlotte today. Do you find you like working with the younger or the older?
There's things I like about both, actually.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, I think I really like, one of the things I really like is helping people, and this can be younger or older, that have some issues with communication somehow.
Oh, yeah.
Like people have strokes or kids that have speech, delays or whatever.
Because they want to communicate.
Yeah. And so music is it's actually a super good way. Like people, and we can talk about but people like that have had strokes that have aphasia, that can't speak, and I've seen it happen, they can still sing.
Oh, wow.
Right. And so, because it's a different part of their brain.
Yeah.
So first of all, you can just use that as they can get something out.
Just something.
And then we can also use it to retrain, to make new pathways to actually start saying things.
Okay,
right?
that's amazing.
So
that's amazing.
Like that. And then dementia, my mom had Alzheimer's, right?
Yeah.
And so the music part of your brain is one of the last things to go, right? So my mom, she couldn't remember. I took her to a funeral once, and she couldn't remember anybody that we were talking to.
Yeah.
She couldn't remember what we did yesterday. And then we sat down, we sang Love at Home, because she couldn't read anymore.
Right.
She couldn't read music anymore. And she sang all 4 verses, alto part.
Wow.
Because it was just...
It was there.
Right?
And
I see that,
quickly.
yeah. And that's why, you see those videos of people, listening to... And it's because those things are still there. And so, that makes them feel alive and happy, and they because they feel young again, and they feel and with this, they feel like if you just have them make music anyway, even if it's just hitting a drum or singing or they feel like they can do something, because they get old and they're start feeling useless.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And they come alive at the music.
Yeah.
They come alive. So tell me, Mela Music Therapy is the name of your company.
It is.
Tell me how you came up with that name.
So I actually agonized over the name of my company for days and all these names, and then one day my husband said, "Why don't you just name it after your mom?" Oh. And I went, "That is a great idea." My mom, she suffered from Alzheimer's and Parkinson's for 9 years.
Wow.
And she was a musician. She was a piano player. I wasn't a music therapist when she was still alive, so I went into it after. Wow. But music was a big part of her life, and so I decided to just keep her legacy alive in my company.
That's amazing.
So,
okay, talking to you, music therapy is not anything what I thought it was. I just they lay there and you play harp music or something. Is that what people think?
Yes, sometimes they think that you just play, I've had someone say, "I thought you just played records for people," or first of all, records?
Okay, and I'm laughing, but that's, not records, but that's kind of what I thought.
Right. Or just sit, I think you said, to sit and play a harp or something. I have a lot of people say, so you just use music to make people feel good, which is, yes, but it's not as simple as that.
Yeah.
I've had people, I talked to another music therapist once, and she said, "Yeah, sometimes I feel like people think we're voodoo, it's this, the vibes of the music are gonna, or something," but that's not what it is. So it's an interactive process. The way I like to explain it, just because I kind of like to have something to compare things to, something familiar to compare something unfamiliar to. And so one way I like to explain it is, there's a couple ways, but one way is if you're comparing music lessons or music education or something like that, and music therapy, they're both good things, they're just different, right? So music lessons, if you're gonna go to a music lesson and learn how to play piano or singing lessons or something, you're going because you want to learn this musical skill. Okay. Right? And you want a product. You want to learn a new song or learn how to read music or whatever it is. And then we all know that the byproduct of music lessons, there's lots of other things you get from it, right?
Right.
We there's all that research about it that's for your brain, and it makes you feel good, and it's an outlet and all those things. So music therapy to me, it's like the opposite.
Okay.
So your focus is on what you're going to get from it.
Okay.
So it's like, what does this person need? So it's kind of a holistic thing. Like we look at all the different areas of someone's life. Like, what do they need? Do they need some social interaction? Do they need, does their brain need stimulated? Do they need fine motor skill practice or whatever? So we're focusing on that thing first, and then we find the musical, we call them interventions, but to somebody looking out, it'll look like an activity, right? That's gonna help them get that, right? And so it's like music is like the prescription. We have all these different things that are our medicine, right? And then we, and I'm not talking, you know what I mean when I say medicine. I do believe in medicine too. But, you know, so then we use those to get the outcome that we're wanting. And then the residual could be like, oh, we made this great song, or we learned a new musical skill or something, but that's not the focus. It's not focusing on, like, you don't have to be a musician to benefit from music therapy. You don't, it's just that you, it does help to enjoy music. That probably helps someone to be more motivated to want to do it, but you don't have to be a musician or, you know, think like know a lot about music or anything like that. Because
we all have songs that move us all and music that moves us all. So I hope this doesn't sound condescending, but your education is much more in depth than I understood it was. Like you said, aphasias. Like you studied the brain and like it was so far beyond music. Your degree.
So you have to do a bachelor's degree in music therapy, and then you get a background in like psychology and anatomy and physiology and sociology and different things like that, and then the music background, and then those are kind of like the prerequisites, right? And then once you have that background, then they put it all together in your music therapy courses, and then you have to do a 6-month internship where you're actually practicing it, kind of like student teaching, right? And then and then I went on after that and just did like it was just like a 3 or 4 day course, kind of certification type of thing, that's called neurologic music therapy, and that was really focused on what it does in the brain. So because that just fascinated me.
That fascinates me too. I love the brain studies. My kids figured out at a very young age that they could like set the mood in their home with music. Like really, you know, if people are fighting, they'll like break out into the song we all love, and by the end everyone's singing it or whatever. Or if I'm like losing it, the kids, they turn on like music that they know that I love and calls me, and I'm like, okay, good one, you know, because music affects us.
It does.
Like on a deeper level than like I can't think myself out of it, but I can feel myself out of it. Does that make sense?
Like we had to take a class called the psychology of music. So it wasn't just psychology. It was like learning how music affects you, like that, right? Like what it is actually doing inside of your brain and what's what's going on. So it was really interesting. But when you said like using music to like calm you and all this stuff, what I've learned over these years in doing music therapy is that that's different for everybody, right? Like for me, like there's certain music that's calming to me, and so before I would think, well, then that's calming for everyone, right? But that's not necessarily. I mean, for some people, hard rock music is relaxing.
Really?
Right? Yes.
Wow.
And it like calms them down, and it and whereas for other people like me, it's not really what I want to be listening to if I just want to like be you know, zenning or something.
But to some people that really is. And to honor that in that person and to find what theirs is.
And that's what, that's a big part of music therapy. It's not just like me coming in and like doing what my favorite things and what I think. It's like really centered on the client, on the person and what they need and what's gonna be effective for them. So it's an important, so I've had to learn about lots of different kinds of music and I've even learned to like some things that I didn't think I would before.
You yelled at your kids to turn down before. I totally get that. My house is never clean because we clean to music, and
yes.
we never actually clean with the
start dancing.
right. But I remember there's something uniting about music. Like, I loved how you said it helps them communicate.
Yes.
Because there's something uniting about music that I don't know if we can find in other places.
Yes.
In fact, I'd heard studies where like hearts syncopate to music and each other. Is that, I don't know if you've heard that.
We've done like music therapists, I haven't myself, but some music therapists have done like heartbeat recordings.
Okay.
You know, where they use the music to someone's heartbeat. That's not the same thing you're saying, but like, or like their baby, you know, or like someone whose maybe baby has died, they'll make like a recording of a song that's to the beat of their heartbeat or something, like for the
that's
parents
incredible.
Or
that's incredible.
There's all kinds of things like that that people do. It's pretty amazing. You can kind of take it into a lot of different directions.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and that just kind of makes me think of like hospice too. Mm-hmm. Like in hospice, it can be really effective. And one of the things that they do in hospice is letting the person like reminisce about their life through music.
Yeah.
And so make like a recording, you know, a compilation of different songs that like tell about their life, right? In different ways. And so they can kind of reminisce and kind of come to terms with things like through music, and then they have something to leave for their loved ones.
Yeah.
You know, and that could be just collecting recordings of songs, or it could be like a music therapist or somebody or musician can actually record the songs themselves, and or the person could, if they want to, they could sing it, or if they play a musical instrument or something, right? And then they leave that for their loved ones. Yeah. But it does connect like people, like you said.
So if you are looking for ways to connect to mom and dad that's maybe suffering from dementia or Alzheimer's, and they're, like you said about your mom, that they're not communicating in other ways, how would you suggest just someone at home could use that to, you know, unify or bond with mom?
Yeah, there's actually quite a few things you can do. One thing, I mean, of course, listening to music together, right? I mean, that's kind of like the first level, but there's like a lot of levels you can add on to that, right? And you know, and you can use music, like you were saying, like if they're agitated, you can find something that helps calm them down, or something that they like to help them, like if they're not wanting to go take a bath or something, maybe there's some music can calm them down, or get them just kind of like happy and not thinking about the thing they don't want to do. But there's other more engaging things you can do, like listen to some music and like talk about it, like oh, hear that trumpet in there, or hear the violin, and because that can bring, like, people with dementia, even whether they are still talking or not still talking, they can still nod or whatever, right? And it can help bring them into because it's hard for them to be in the moment, right? To know what, right? Because oftentimes it's just hard for them to like know what's going on a lot of times, or, you know, depending on
come into that part of the brain that makes us present,
right? And so just finding some simple thing like that, that's pretty, isn't it? You know, just talking about the music, and depending on the person, you can get more complicated or really simple, right? And other things is like finding music that is like was their favorite. A lot of the times, good music to use is music from somebody's like late teens, early, you know, from teens, early young adulthood, kind of, because it's kind of your music, right? Like I still listen to 80s music all the time, right? And so finding their music and then playing it, and a lot of times you can get them to sing, even if they're not talking a lot, even if they don't remember a lot of other things, they can still remember music. Yeah. It really is one of the last things a lot of times to go. So maybe not like reading music and things like that, that's gonna go, but like just the memory of the song, even if they can't remember what it's called or remember every single word, they're gonna recognize, you know, usually, and things that are really familiar, and so it just makes them feel more alive, and they can, and a lot of times they'll sing, and then it's like, oh, I can still do something, right? And a lot of times it brings memories. So if they're still talking, a lot of times you can start asking them, like, when did you listen to the song? Well, how come you like the song? What does this remind you of? And they can start telling, because a lot of times they remember things from a long time ago, right? So music can help bring that. So it just makes them feel like I still know things.
Yeah.
I still, I can still have fun.
Yeah.
I can, and then
things are still familiar.
Yeah.
Because they live in a world that's not familiar to them anymore. And it's scary to them. I mean, we see the panic. And but things are familiar again.
Yeah, and then it also makes something that connects you with them.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the times, like, right, they're like in a different place than you are, right?
Yeah.
They're thinking something else, remembering something a different way or whatever, and it's hard for you to like connect with them.
Yeah.
But if you find music that they really are like, whoa, and you can connect with them that way and enjoy, even like grab a little hand drum or a tambourine or something, let them like, be involved in it. Like that's just more endorphins coming out, right? And, and just that really does help stimulate their brain, or even just moving, just even clapping your hands, marching your feet, just getting that blood flowing and moving to and that's might be an easier way to get them to move than to like say, come on, we're gonna
go for a walk. You need to exercise today. They don't know.
Let's move your arms up and down. So those are some examples.
And I think the connections, the people that I watch whose parents are dealing with like an Alzheimer's dementia, they want ways to connect to mom and to dad. That's important to have that connection. And I'll never forget years ago, before I even came into this field, 30 years ago, a friend of mine was dealing with like a grandparent or something that had dementia, and he couldn't remember anyone's name, but he responded differently to people when they came in, even though he didn't. And she decided that he responded to the way that they made him feel.
You're right.
And so, because one was a little condescending, come on, Dad, you got to get in the shower. And the other one was very patient and kind. And so even though he couldn't remember their names, and he didn't know he remembered how he felt when he was with them, somewhere back there. And so I feel like that music, if it's a positive experience when they're with you, you still have a connection that way. They don't know your name, they don't know who you are, but they remember, they feel good when they're with you.
Yes.
And they feel better when they're with you. And I don't think that goes away, actually.
Yeah.
That's
how I always felt about my mom, is even though she didn't know who we were, I feel like she knew we were her family. Like she knew we were people that loved her. So I agree with that, right? It's that feeling. And another thought just came to me when you were talking was like, and this is probably more in like earlier stages, but when I think there are things, just like there's medicines and things to do that help them, even though we're not necessarily going to like make it go away or make it from continuing eventually, but there are things just like in medicine that they do to help them try to stay where they are as long as possible, or help to be help their quality of life while they're there, right? To make you a better quality of life. And so I think the earlier the better, doing things that are like stimulating their brain, like cognitively, just helps them, maybe you can do things that just help it not go as fast, right, as it would. But even just things like play Name That Tune, get songs from their older years and play a little bit and like, do you know what the song is? And depending on where they're at, they might can name the song, they might can hum the song, they might can sing the song. You might have to play a whole bunch of the song, or maybe you can play a teeny tiny bit, but just finding things, games and things to kind of stimulate their brain. Just to
that's a great cognitively keep things
just
moving.
Where they're at. Like something they can do, but it just keeps that for where they are right then.
Okay, and that's things everyone can do at home with mom and dad.
Sure.
So if they come to you, you take that a step further. What other things do you do?
So we do things, what we do initially is we do like an assessment. So we'll do some of these types of things with them just so and other things, even non-musical little assessments, just to see where they're at. In just, in their communication, cognitively, and motor-wise, and well-being, just all those kind of areas. We just see where they're at, and then after doing that and talking to the family members and to the person if possible, then we decide, okay, what's our focus here? What are we wanting to get from this? And then we design a we call like a treatment plan where we use music to help the people.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can be helping somebody, let's say they used to play a musical instrument, or sometimes it can be helping them, it depends on where the person is, right? But there are times when it can be bringing music back into that person's life in a way that they can do it. Yeah. Right? There's a lot of adaptive ways. There's even so much adaptive equipment now. Like you can play the guitar now without really having to play the chord. There's these different devices where you just have to push a button. Yeah. Or you just have to, right? And so finding ways to help them to be able to like have music be a part of their lives. Yeah. Maybe even like we have a family member who used to play the violin, and I feel like bringing that back to her would be a great thing, but it's also sometimes helping people get over the psychological idea that I'm not going to play like I did, though. Right. So you have to kind of help them work through that to get to a place where it's like,
so it can bring joy again.
Yes. And maybe it's not going to be the violin now, but maybe it's something else we can find. Right. I worked with a man who had a stroke, so one side that he couldn't use one side, and he used to be a really great pianist. Like I think he did it professionally. Wow. And so for a long time, he didn't want to play the piano because it was too hard, too emotional. Yeah. And so we did other things. He also had a hard time. He had aphasia, so he couldn't get out what he wanted to say. Yeah. And so we worked on that a lot. You can use just like get a sentence and put it to a melody, and then use rhythm, and then just say it over and over, and eventually, and they sing it over and over, and eventually they learn to speak it, and they just kind of learn, okay, when someone asks me this, I say this, right? And so we were doing things like that, and then just familiar songs to try to get him to like be able to sing things, and anyway, eventually, so we had to kind of work through. You can use music, and you can use like music lyrics and things to work through emotions, and we had to work through it. But eventually, we got to where he would play the one hand on the piano, and I'd play the other hand, and we would do things together, and for him, and it became an enjoyable thing for him, right? And so things just you have to just be creative to find things that work for that person.
That's incredible to give someone back that thing that brought them so much joy. So much joy. And like you said, you don't have to be a musician to benefit from it. But you don't. Surely musicians absolutely benefit.
Yes, I think so. Yeah. We even have, so at Mellow Music Therapy, there's 3 different things that we offer, and one is people can come to us, right? To me, I have a clinic in Mesa, and then the other thing is we can do virtual sessions with people. But the other thing that's a new program we have is called MT at Home. So what we do is I talk to the caregiver, like in this case probably, and I help them, like I still do an assessment, whether it's virtually or they come to me, I still do the assessment, and then after that we come up with our goals and what we want to do, and then I basically am just consulting with the caregiver, and they're gonna facilitate it. So, and they don't have to be a musician either. So I will meet with them like on the phone or video consult once or twice a month, and I will send them like, here's what you're gonna do. Here's some videos of me doing a song you guys can do with me or whatever, or here's some instructions of an activity you can do with your loved one or with your family and them, or we decide what the needs are, and then I just give them the kind of blueprint, and then they do it, and then they report back, and I like, okay, this is what went well, this was not going well, but it's something they can, it's a more inexpensive option, and it's just something that they can do it on their own time.
And someone from anywhere. You're working with several veterans right now all over the country, is that right? Yeah. Okay, with PTSD, is that right?
PTSD and brain injuries. Yeah.
Okay, and you're seeing successes there?
We are, Wow. And we're doing that with virtual sessions.
Okay.
But that is something I really enjoy.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, and you talked about aphasias, which is language disability in the brain. But what about like physical? And I could be making this up, but here's the truth about me. I'm so uncoordinated. Like my kids left because I'm super intelligent and I can do a lot of things, but like ask me to carry all my stuff to the car for work, and I'm dropping it, and people have to open doors, and like, you can't function, like, but I'm smart, but I'm so uncoordinated. But one thing that my husband will say to me is like, you're so unathletic, but for some reason when the music comes on, I can dance.
Yes.
I have good, I think I can dance, but I have coordination all of a sudden, and I can't throw a ball to save my life probably, but I can dance when the music comes on. Something in my body suddenly connects, and I'm like athletic enough to dance.
Yes.
Is that like
totally.
So someone with, I don't know, Parkinson's, like something more physical?
Yes.
Okay.
For sure, yes. So in neurologic music therapy, they've done tons of studies on people with Parkinson's and how to help in their movement. And so they use rhythm. The rhythm of either the music or even sometimes just a rhythmic beat, like a metronome or something, right, to help with this. And so they have gotten all these people, and they measure their gait first, like how they walk, right, and all these things about their gait. And they work with another thing is great thing we can do is like work with other therapists, right? So like you can work with like a physical therapist, and that's how they develop these, by working with other therapists, right? So that you what's the word? You assess their gait and everything about it, like how are they walking their feet, how is their flow of their movement, all these things. And then there's a formula, a little way you find out what rhythm you should start with, and so then you use that metronome beat, what beat you should start with, and you can use music that fits that beat, like play along music to that. What's the word? Speed, right? And then that drives them. That goes in their head, and it like drives them, and so their movements. There's a lot. You can look this up on online, right? To find lots of videos of people doing this. And the rhythm drives their movement and makes it smooth and fluid. And then the point is you do it enough, and then they can walk like that without the rhythm. And you might even give them headphones, so every day they got that beat in their head, and they're like walking, or even with other movements, right, that you want to be a little more fluid. Like I'm working with somebody right now that has cerebral palsy, and his movements are really, really shaky. And so but when they're not thinking like about that, but they're just like, I'm playing this drum, or we're trying to help him learn to feed himself a cookie, right? And so we're putting instruments right up here on his shoulder or whatever, and having him reach up, and so just practicing that movement, but you're not thinking I'm practicing this. You're just like, I'm playing the drum, I'm listening to my favorite songs, and so but all that is very research based, and there has been a lot done with Parkinson's. I even know there's a Parkinson's group in Gilbert through Banner. That there's like a center down there, and there's a music therapist from Banner that goes down there and works with the people in a group. And does things working on those movement.
Music therapy is just not what I thought it was. It's like it's so much more. It can do so much more for people.
It's pretty exciting.
I remember a time like just when like our law office and stuff was first opening, and I had like 7 kids under the age of 10, and really my anxiety and my depression was really hitting in, and so I think sometimes as young moms anyway, we kind of get lost taking care of everyone, and as a caretaker we see this all the time. You forget who you are taking care of other people. In fact, when a lot of people come to me, one of the first things I say is, you need to check on a caretaker. Like if both parents and one's doing bad, if mom's not doing well, you need to be checking on dad. Because we forget the caretaker. We forget the caretaker. And so I'm curious about, so there's like a depression and anxiety that we hardly know when we kind of forget ourselves. And I remember talking to a friend who also had dealt with some depression, and she brought me a CD of music, and I forgot that I loved music. I forgot I loved music. And it was really the beginning of a turnaround for me. And we had a client and I saw the same thing with a client on hospice who, just kind of giving up, that we discovered as she was in hospice, it was a client that we took care of full time, kind of on a fiduciary capacity, that she loved music. And so we would play like Sound of Music and all of those older musicals that she grew up with, and we would just play them all the time while she was in bed, and we'd sing them with her and stuff. And she, not communicable, but she could do that.
Right.
Is there something with anxiety and depression and the music that can kind of bring us out of that sometimes?
Yeah. Anxiety and depression is really where music therapy got started, like working with people with mental health issues.
Yeah.
So it was clear back into like the 50s, after the war, people, they would bring musicians in to work with these soldiers that had all these, mental health issues because of the war. Whether, at the time, I don't know if they knew what they were, but whether it's PTSD, which has depression, anxiety, all these things. So they'd bring these musicians and they would see the positive effects on the soldiers. And so they're like, there's something to this. So they started doing research and doing things, and then music therapy was created from that. And then the first music therapy program at a university was born like out of that. And it's actually been around longer than most people think.
Yeah.
But it's been mostly for a long time more in the mental health field.
Okay.
And here in Arizona, that's a lot of the more established facilities that have like an established music therapist there are in the mental health field, but the other fields are more new, but they're being now we have hospitals with music therapists and all kinds of places, but the first was more like in mental health. And so that's really where, and I think there's some obvious things that we would get from it, like, music gives us endorphins, it helps us feel good, right? And so just like the story you were saying, right? You listen to it and it makes you feel good.
Right.
But there's a lot more to it too than that. Like you can just go on so many different levels, and depending on the person, how, like, some people listen to music and we'll just be, like, why do you like that music? I don't know, it makes me feel good, right? I like the sound or whatever.
Yeah.
Some people are like, they relate on a like very personal level, like what the lyrics are saying, or what it means to them, or like what it reminds them of somebody or some place, or I've been places with groups and playing music, and it's not a sad song, but someone starts crying. Yeah. But it's because it evokes like a memory or something, right? But anyway, it can really help you process a lot, right? And so I've seen people really kind of get deep and process a lot of heavy emotions using music in a way I think they might not, they wouldn't normally have just like started telling me things. Right. But we're not focusing on them. We're like, it's like deferred to the music, to the song. So it's like they can just relate to the music without feeling like it's so much on them. And sometimes you don't even realize that you're just getting all this stuff out. Yeah. Right? Yeah. One thing that I really, I never like been a drummer or playing drums or anything like that, but that's one of the things we have to learn how to do is percussion, and it's fun. Not only is it fun, but it's like really cathartic to bang on a drum, right? And so using things like that to help people with their emotions, just like let's bang this out. Let's just using it as an outlet. There's just so many components to how it can really be effective with anxiety and depression. And I've only had maybe a couple people come to me like because of like, I'm coming to you because I want help with my anxiety and depression. I have had a couple, but most of the time it's people who are experiencing anxiety and depression because of other things. They had a stroke, and they were coming to me because they had a stroke and they want to work on their speech or their motor skills or something. But then that's also there, so that's something we can also address. Just getting older can be a reason to get depressed, right?
That's true.
Right? Like you no matter whether, if you've had some major thing like a stroke, or you get something like Parkinson's, that even adds to it, right? But just the fact of like, you're not doing the things that kind of defined you, or the things that really made you feel like you, right? Your kids are all raised, and they don't need you as much anymore, right?
You may be retired from your career.
Retired from your career, so you don't have that anymore. Maybe you're not as active out in the community as you used to could be, or all those things, and you don't feel as useful.
Right.
And I think that's really an important place to like catch people.
Yes.
Right? Because when and I've seen that happen, like if they just think, oh, I can't do anything anymore, then they just go sit home and start getting depressed. And there's a lot of different things we can do for people like that, but music is one of them. Right? Just getting them active in some type of music making, some type of, to just help them feel like there's something I can do. I know my father-in-law, it was years ago, but it was after he'd retired. He joined it was when he lived in Sholo, and he joined a little city band.
I love
that. And he played the trumpet. I don't think he'd played the trumpet in years and years, but it didn't matter, right? They were just having fun, and it was so, you could just see how good it was for him, right? Yeah. So even just things like that.
Yeah. What do you see as the biggest issue with the aging population right now?
Well, I think probably the first thing that might come to most of our heads right now at this moment is like connection, right?
Yeah, we are in the middle of COVID.
Yes. Yeah. So connection is a big thing.
Yeah.
Even before COVID, connection, just because, besides the part of, like maybe they can't remember as much anymore or whatever, but I think also I see people, because of like technology, right? Like, what runs everything?
Yeah.
Technology.
Oh, yeah.
You do everything on technology. Yes. I mean, I even feel inept. Right? Right? Because there's so much more than when when we
calling
were
our young adult kids to come over
to help us.
Right.
So just think of like our parents.
Yeah.
Right?
And
so they feel, I think that sometimes can make them feel disconnected.
Yeah.
And so actually using technology, we can show them, like, there's all these like cool things, even on your iPad, there's cool music things you can do, right? Where you can create little music and record over yourself. There might be a little keyboard you can, and it can show them an easy way to use technology and kind of connect. But I think that can make them feel very like isolated, and the fact that they can't see people, right, and then like I already talked about before, just they kind of lose their sense of self, right, and then their independence, right. So just finding things to help them feel like they can do some things on their own,
right,
and that they're like, I think that they're still smart, right? Because it's like, I think it's even me, I mean, I'm 50, right? And so sometimes I feel stupid, right? Your kids just look at you or something. and so I think like helping them, like, you still know stuff, right? You can still
ask their advice.
Yes. And just, I think also I already kind of addressed this, but like, just the inactivity, keeping them just having something to get up for every day.
Right. We all go through phases, and like when all my kids went to school and finding a reason to get up in the morning. I was blessed I had a job I loved. Right. But when all that goes away, finding a reason to get up.
Right.
And just listening to, I'm thinking connection is huge, but I think also it's because we have to find new ways to connect to our parents.
Yes.
Like I think of families who they all played baseball together, or they all played it, like sang in a choir together, and that was their connection. Mom and dad can't do that anymore.
Can't do that anymore, right?
Yeah, and so you do have to find new ways to connect, new languages. If instead of going to play baseball together, you have to find another way to connect, or whatever.
However that might be.
And because they're lonely. I think that I agree that that's one of the biggest things that we're seeing right now is loneliness that I see. And connecting, and they want to connect, but there's so many things in the way. As
we
they
have to
age.
find ways they can connect instead of like, why can't you connect the way you used to?
I know, right? Yeah.
I mean, I remember feeling that way right when my mom was first, right? Like, why can't you?
We always go do this together.
Right.
We loved it,
But then you just have to get creative and like, but what can we do?
Right.
It's not like just this all or nothing. Like, well, guess we can't.
Right. Guess you're just gonna sit there, and I'm just gonna sit there
and finding things like, and even like there may be a case like maybe you can't be with them 24 hours a day, but you can find them either things to do or give them things, teach them how to do something, like how to play music for themselves or how to, whatever it is, right? How to do some things so that they don't feel so helpless.
Yeah.
That just made me think of one of my clients. He had a family member who got him something called the Grand Pad. Have you ever heard of it?
I have not.
So this might be something for people who are listening to you, and to look up. It's called the Grand Pad, and it was made for for the elderly population, right? So it makes it so it's very easy to do. Okay. So they can talk on the phone, like video with their. So somebody will program it for them, so they can just do certain things on there and what they want them to do, and so they'll just push, and it's very like big, so they can see it, and so they can just push a button, and it will call their daughter or whatever.
Oh, wow.
It makes it really easy, and they can see a video. You can put certain music in there, so they just easily, you teach them how to just put, you push this button, you get your songs, right? And there's other things too besides the music and the talking, the communicating, but those are the two main things that I'm remembering at the moment. But it is really a cool thing. Yeah. So, and it's made. We'll look into that. Yeah, it's for it's very technologically easy. Yeah. And then you can like program it to do the specific things that you want it to do for it. And so then they feel like they can use technology and they can use it to help them. And, So it's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, that is frustrating. I have several kids that live out of state right now, and they're mostly how they communicate is through Facebook Messenger. Yes. But that's not easy for like mine and Jason's parents necessarily to figure out. Some of them do really great, but others have a hard time figuring out, and they want to connect to them. They want to talk to my kids, their grandkids, but they can't figure out Facebook Messenger. It's just too hard. It's one more thing to learn.
That's why I thought this was really cool. Yeah, it's made for older adults.
Yeah, like I'm almost to the thing where my kids have to just like tape off the whole remote except the volume and the channel. Like I don't want to know anything else. Maybe mute. You know? Make
that. It simple for me.
Make it simple. Okay, tell me about one of your favorite success stories.
So, well, the one that pops into my head was a man. He's actually passed away now, but he had a stroke, and he was one of my first people I got to work with, like after I went and did the neurologic music therapy and was really excited about trying some of the new things, and so he actually lived in a care home, like one of those residential care homes where they take care of just like a handful of people right in the house, and his wife didn't live there, she had him there, and so her and the person that took care of him at the home thought that this might be a good thing for him. And so I would go to his home. At the time I was going to people's homes, and so I would go there, and it was so frustrating to him because you could tell he knew what he wanted to say to you, but it just would not come out, right? Like he knew, like, I just think that would be one of the most frustrating things.
So frustrating.
And so
hard.
Yeah, and so he had that. He's the same man I was talking to you about the piano. He played the piano. Yeah. And so one of the things I saw from him was just, not that he got miraculously cured and could just do all these things, but he was able to. And you have to look. Sometimes just something that might seem a small success to someone else is big to that person, right? Yeah. Like if you go from never not being able to say anything, and then all of a sudden you can say, "How are you? I'm doing fine," or something. Then it's big.
Yeah. Right? So like when we put toddlers when they take a step, that's huge to them.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Or him being able to start enjoying playing the piano again, right? Even though he could only do it with one hand. Right. But the way, I think this is actually the way I got connected to him and his wife in the first place is I went, when I was doing my internship, I had the opportunity to go with another music therapist to this, they called a stroke camp. and it's a camp they do up in Prescott in the summer for people who have had strokes and their caregivers, and it's really neat thing. Yeah, it's really cool. And that's where I kind of got introduced to the population, and anyway, that's where I met him. And so after that, when I started working with him, we would start like teaching him songs on the piano or songs to sing and like play and sing and things like that. And then a couple of years later, it was a few years after that, I can't remember how long, but he'd go to stroke camp every summer. And so he went back to stroke camp one year, and we had been working on some things, some songs. And I didn't go that year, but the music therapist that always goes, she was there, and she videoed him. Yeah. And he performed at the little talent show thing and played his songs and sang, and big standing ovation. And he was just, and he was someone that was very depressed and very discouraged because he couldn't do the things he used to do. Right. But just seeing that he felt good about doing things again and about making music, and that everyone was so like supportive of him, and that to me, that was a success story. Like I say, sometimes someone else might to one person, but to me that was like a big thing, because it's like not only it's what you're getting on the outside too, but it's also what's happening on the inside. And that's actually, I think, one of the things that's hard about like what's the word? Like with music therapy, you know how you have like quantitative data and qualitative data? Yeah. Like there is quantitative stuff, there's research, and but there's also the stuff that you can't like
you can't measure. Right. Quantitative means you can measure it, right?
Yes, right. And then there's the stuff that's just like, I've seen like caregivers or parents like with tears down their face because their loved one all of a sudden saying something they couldn't say, or they're singing and enjoying music and they haven't done that for 2 years or something, and how do you write that down? Or you can try to explain it, but like it's not going to be like in a data form, really. And so that's actually probably one reason why maybe it's like it's harder to like fit in, like in the why it's taking a while to fit in like in the medical field. But that's neurologic music therapy is helping like bridge that, because it's bringing the research and the things so that it can bridge and bring it more into the medical world.
But how do you chart quality of life? It's and joy.
And that's why, I mean, I think I can speak for most music therapists. That's why we do.
Right. Not so you can do the data, but so you can see that.
And the data helps because it helps you know, it helps inform what you're doing, and it helps show if you're having progress. Right there. But the reason that keeps us waking up, has those things that we like to do, is because we're seeing that. Right. That's why I went into it in the first place. I was like, well, I'd heard about it, I knew about it for years and years, but when I was deciding to go back to school, I had remembered about music therapy. And that's why I looked it up online, and I found videos of people, and specifically I found the video of Gabby Giffords when she got shot in her brain, and then they used music therapy. It was because it was on the news, and I saw that, and then I was like, oh, that's really fascinating. And then I found more and more and more, and then because when you watch the videos, you see the reaction in the people, and
in the family, that it's so hard in before and after things. But when you've seen the struggle, like you said, for a year or two of him coming from depression to just being able to play the piano in front of people again, and that triumph, I mean, how can you even measure that? Priceless is what they say.
And I think I also see people like older adults that like makes me feel good to see them feeling, it helps them to feel better about, just like what you said, like doing things in front of people, whether it's just speaking or just being around. Like we're helping someone right now who's had a stroke, who just he can still speak okay, like you understand him, he can, but his memory isn't what it used to be, and so he feels in conversations he just feels kind of inadequate to have a conversation, and so we're kind of focusing in that way, and it's fun to see that just kind of blossom and him come and say like, I'm feeling more comfortable with this, or have him, or just see it when we're talking to him, or So it's just fun to see progress,
right?
Even if it's little, because little progress builds on each other, right?
Yeah, the small, simple steps.
Yeah. And with Alzheimer's, I've worked with people with Alzheimer's, and sometimes with Alzheimer's, you're not going to quite see. So it's not so much like rehabilitation, right? But you still see. Like I used to go to assisted livings and memory cares and do group music therapy there, and you'd hear like some of the sometimes the spouses would come in to visit them during music time, so they'd be with them during music time, and they would say music time's their favorite time of the day because that's when they get to hear their songs they like, and that's when they just like it's something familiar and it's something that they enjoy and even look forward to. Like they tell them it's music today, or and then it's fun for the family member to see them light up. Because a lot of the day they're agitated, and they're like, so just seeing them be able to relax like makes them feel better, right? And you see them having fun together, and so that's fun to see. And that, I think that's a lot what you see with people with dementia, is just kind of just helping their quality of life. Quality of life, so important. And just in the moment being able to connect with them and have mom back just for a second in that way. Yeah. And it could be healing. I think you already brought this up for family members. Yeah. Right?
I think it absolutely can. I mean, I see it all the time. Some of the hardest decisions is deciding whether to put mom and dad into care and how to care for them and stuff like that. It's so hard. It's agonizing. Yes. It's agonizing I remember I had a good friend whose dad had dementia at a very young age. And when he passed away, they finally did have to put him in a home. And when he passed away a few years later, I said, I'm sorry for the loss of your dad. And they said to me, I lost my dad 8 years ago. Yes. Which I'm sure you can relate to with your own mom. I lost him 8 years ago. He just wasn't my dad. But if you can just have some moments. And find that new way to communicate. That it doesn't look like it used to, but it can still be rewarding and connecting. Yes. And they need that connection so badly. Yes. And we need it with them. Yes. We need it with them.
For sure.
If someone wants to get a hold of you, what is the best way to do that?
Best way is probably just through my website. Okay. It's just mellamusictherapy.com.
Okay.
And it's MELLA.
Okay.
So just a little backstory. My mom's name was Mary Louise.
Okay.
But her sister couldn't say it, so she would just call her Melouise. And so she went by Mella. Like she even it was on her checks when she was from a young age. She just started going by Mella. So anyway, so mellamusictherapy.com, and you can contact me through there. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram.
Under Mella Music Therapy.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. Fantastic. Yep. Okay.